How do you build authority and earn trust as a conference MC or speaker? Hey, in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 key ideas for how you can really earn trust and authority with an audience. And here's the thing. I've been to thousands of events, and most of people do it 100% backwards. Come find out why in this video. Hi there, my name is Josh Freeberg, and I work as a transformational MC. I am a certified exchange guide, and what we do is create deep human connection at speed and scale by moving the learning from passive to active, inviting expertise off of the stage and onto the floor or into the entire room, and inviting people to not see themselves not just as individuals, but as part of a community. Hey, if you're interested in up-leveling as an event host, as a conference speaker, as an MC, or are just curious about the dynamics of when people gather intentionally, you would really enjoy this channel. So take a second to subscribe and maybe type in the comments what you'd like to see in a future video about how to conduct really conscious gatherings. Well, one of the things that I've seen after doing literally hundreds of events and attending probably more like thousands of events is that one of the things that speakers and MCs often have to do is they have to figure out how to earn the trust of the crowd and really be able to speak with authority. But here's the thing. Most of what they do with the intent of accomplishing that actually works against them. And we're going to share with you why here in just a few minutes. But what I think really goes wrong, and this is the enemy of all of it, and I really just want you to notice this where it shows up over and over again, is that the biggest enemy of building trust and authority is ego. It's 100% ego. That whether we're afraid or we're just overconfident or we just want to act like someone we're not, we so often do these things that actually undermine our trustworthiness and undermine our credibility and authority. And so what we're going to be talking about today is very counterintuitive. It is the opposite of what you typically see. In fact, when you think of how someone typically earns trust and authority, it is often through a lot of hype, right? It is a bigger entrance, literally with laser lights and smoke machines and intro music, right? It is someone delivering a really puffed up introduction, right, with all the person's accolades and bona fides. And you know what it does? Is it actually reveals that maybe like this person is insecure in their ability to earn trust. It also sets an expectation that's so high that you can't often achieve it. And it really just sets up our speakers for failure. They're already behind as people are like, okay, let's see what you got, big shot. And so the first thing that I always recommend, and this is going to be our first sort of guideline for building trust and authority, is skip the introduction. Or make it as minimalist as possible. So often one of the introduction that I will request from an event host when I'm going to be guiding an event for a day, for an hour, for a day, for 3 days, is simply say, hey, this is Josh. I was introduced to him, and he is going to be guiding us through our event over the next few days. That's it. That's it. And then if I do give an introduction to myself, it will honestly be at a more personal level. Hey, I'm from Oregon. This is my family. And then maybe one thing that I have in common with this group, if I'm speaking to a group of real estate agents, hey, I worked as a real estate agent, led some teams for about 10 years. If I was working with people who are in the outdoors, I'll talk about, hey, I'm into the outdoors too. I'm into hunting and I'm getting outside with my family. Not a lot. Because immediately what I want to do is move the learning away from me, decenter myself, and center the audience, the gathered people, and their experience. Because interestingly enough, right, the people who you find to be the best conversationalists are the ones who stop talking about themselves and ask you questions about you. The people you find most fascinating are the people who are fascinated with you. And the people that you trust the most are the ones who give trust vulnerably to you. So let's skip the introductions. Listen, people have gotten overwhelmed and flooded with everybody's resumes and are way more interested in connecting on a personal level. And by the way, related to this, I was in a room once and there were probably only like 30 people in the room. And the person came in with like this really loud intro music and was like hyping the room. Like they turned off the lights and then played this really loud intro music. It was like, clap along. And it was just like big and rowdy. And I'm like, hey, I bet that works really well for a room of like 500. I bet that works amazing for like a room of 10,000. But this is a room of 30. Like, quite literally read the room. It's just, it was the wrong fit. And so when in our desire to like fit a mold, we sometimes like really miss our audience. And then one last thing on the prepared introduction, right? Everybody in the room knows you wrote it, right? So like you're asking the host to come up and you see this all the time. The host walks up and they got their notes and like, hey, now welcome to the stage, Joe Johnson. And Joe and they're staring down at their paper. Everybody knows they didn't write it. You know what's way more interesting? Have the host say, hey, I met Joe a couple weeks ago. We've got a couple Zoom calls. One of the things I really appreciate about Joe is how well they listen and the really interesting ideas they have about why we're meeting today. So Joe's going to be guiding us through this event. Come on up. That's it. That's all we need. We don't need a big, fancy introduction. Second, this is a great, great rule, and it is so hard to do because we're so in need to protect ourselves and maintain control. And one of the first things I want to invite you to do is take a risk. Take a risk right at the beginning, like within the first 7 minutes. And specifically, the risk that I'm suggesting is give voice to the audience. You see, when we stand up front and we say, hey, this is why we're here today, you may or may not hit the mark for people. But if you ask, hey, why are you here today? You're going to hear from people and give them the agency to create that for themselves. You see, by giving trust to them, they will trust you. And here's something to think about as it relates to authority, right? If I say, the sky is blue, trust me, I am an authority on that. And you'd be like, well, I mean, you could call it blue, right? But if I say, hey, when you experience the sky, what color do you notice? What does it feel like to you? Whatever answer you give, you are committed to, and you trust that. And so we actually gain authority by not dictating to people, but actually inviting their voices into the space. When you take a risk early, people will give you their trust because you gave them your trust. Number 3, we need to shift, and I think this is really important, and I would invite you to do this, is we want to shift from a place of control to a place of invitation. I think this is particularly true when it comes to large conferences. Over and over again, we have designed conferences based on efficiency. And efficiency is all about how many speakers can we stuff into the amount of time that we have? How can we get people quickly from this plenary session to these breakouts? How can we get people quickly into lunch and back out? How short can we possibly make the breaks before people's bladders explode? And so if you do that, you've got to cattle car everybody from here to there. Go, move, do what you're told. And so people will say, that the job of an MC is like herding cats, because you have these resistant people that you're trying to force into, got to be here, got to go there, got to start on time, got to get end on time, right? Control. Well, how do people respond to control, right? Particularly if you are in, if you're in the U.S., if you are dealing with any type of like entrepreneur, independent contractor type audience, people who are there by choice, who paid to buy a ticket to be at your event, they didn't come to be told what to do. They're independent minded, they're free thinkers, they want to arrive at conclusions on their own, and they don't want to be told what to do. Paid a lot of money to be at this conference, what do I get out of it? When we shift our thinking from controlling to invitation, you can say something to your participants that sounds like this. Hey everybody, we've got a lot sort of on the menu of this conference, but this isn't like a price fix menu where you just, this is what you're going to eat next, that's what you're going to eat next, that's what you're gonna... I want you to think of this like a buffet. And we've got a lot of options for you. And what I want to invite you to do is to make the most of this conference, to get what you need out of this conference so that you can have the most amazing experience of learning and transformation possible. Which, by the way, means if there's a speaker that's interesting to you, that's exciting to you, please make sure you're at that session, right? But if you're looking at the schedule and go, this really doesn't apply to me, it's not perfectly relevant for what I do, but boy, there's an important conversation I want to have while I'm here at the conference, well, we would invite you to step out of the session, grab the person you need to have the conversation with, and move out into the corridor, out into the foyer, outside, it's beautiful today, and have those important conversations, right? If you need a really important nap, go back to your hotel room and take a really important nap. And we would invite you to notice that everyone else here is also trying to have an amazing conference. So if you're in this room where we're going to be doing our sessions, well, golly, make sure that you're protecting your neighbor's right and ability to have a great experience enjoying the speaker, learning from whoever's sharing during the session. So wherever you choose to be a full participant in it and choose it with intention. Right? When you shift from that kind of an invitation, people really, really respect it. In fact, I had an event recently where in one of the pre-meetings, there was a very contentious conversation between two of the people. Now, I wasn't guiding this conversation. It was being led by some other people, and I was in the room and got to watch where there was an active argument happening. And some of the people were very clearly had descended into their lizard brain, and they were gone. They were so triggered and couldn't get out of it. And early in the morning the next day, some of that tension was still in the room during our larger session. And I made an invitation not unlike what I just shared with you. And it was fascinating that one of the guys who was the most frustrated, angry, later said that was one of the things he most appreciated, because he was frustrated. There were things he wanted to get done at this conference and didn't feel the license to do them because he was being herded around from meeting to meeting. When we give people autonomy through shifting from control to invitation, you will earn their trust in a way that you will never get by being the smartest person in the room, that you will never get by being the most knowledgeable person in the room. This does take a different shift of mindset. And it's a shift of mindset. It reminds me of a quote I heard recently from Peter Drucker, where he says, nothing is more wasteful or stupid than doing something efficiently that should not be done at all. And this is one of the questions I ask when I'm working with a meeting host, and they say, hey, we want to do all these things, all these things, all these things. And I say, you're trying to do a lot efficiently that is better off not being done at all. What would it look like for us to cut 30% of the content so we have more space for conversation, connection, and collaboration between our participants? Or we move away from efficiency and toward effectiveness, because sitting and listening to passive lecture for 8 hours a day is not effective. Adult learners do not change, are not transformed, and do not learn under those conditions. So if we can reduce the amount of passive lecture, move toward more active learning, our people will be more effective. But it means letting go of control and shifting to invitation. Now, two more, and these are subtle, but vitally important. And the last two the next one I want to share with you is avoid the temptation to +1 what someone shares. So as part of the way that I lead through conscious facilitation is we are always inviting other voices into the room, people from the floor, people that are different groups with different subgroups within. We want people who are higher status, low status, high power, low power. We want people from all parts of the organization. We want as many people, as many types of voices represented as possible. When someone shares, and this is my biggest reminder to myself every time I lead, is avoid the temptation to +1 what somebody says, right? Avoid the temptation. So if somebody says, wow, I really loved the way that this person turned motivation into action, right? How they turned motivation into action. Listen, I could teach for an hour on the connection between motivation and action, right? And I could talk to you about strategies on it. And so when somebody says something like that, I'll be like, oh my gosh, let me tell you this other little trick I know. Let me teach you this hack that I know. Avoid that temptation. Because it feels like you're adding to what the person said, but what you're in fact doing is diminishing what they said. And again, this is an ego move. This is something where you have to be self-aware enough to say, that's my ego taking over and saying the reason that I insist on wanting to share is because I like to look good. I like to be cool. I want people to notice how smart I am. Rather than doing the very gracious, very humble, and very way that serves the other really well, this is the move, is to say, wow, thank you so much for sharing. Now, here's what you can do. If everybody didn't hear what Julie said over here, is that she really appreciates how that person turned motivation into action. Thank you so much for that, Julie. That is such great insight. Well, did Julie share anything I didn't know? No. But when I say that is such great insight, it's really, really powerful. And in fact, I would invite you to train any senior leaders in the room, anybody who the room is looking to as the key influencers, the people of high status and high power, is invite them to share less. And when they do share, to point out how they were impacted, how they were affected by something that someone else shared in the room. So if all of a sudden the CEO of the company says to, Julie, the intern, wow, Julie, I really appreciate, and you got me thinking about how I myself need to turn my motivation into action. So, gosh, I really learned a lot from you, Julie. See how that elevates her so much, while the CEO is willing to demonstrate that they are impacted by every voice in the organization. But for you, if you're going to be emceeing an event, you're going to be speaking at an event, and you've invited voices from the floor, avoid the temptation to +1 those voices. And here's the last one. And this one is a little tricky. It requires some important technology, a pen, right? And that is, use your participants' specific vocabulary back to them, right? Use their specific vocabulary back to them. So if I'm listening to, Julie, and Julie says, hey, I really appreciate how this person turned motivation into action, I want to use those exact words back, right? I don't want to say, what would be a good example? I don't want to say, hey, as we've been talking about today, you want to use your inspiration and turn it into tangible activities, right? Same thing. but it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing because it doesn't honor Julie's contribution. Also, when we use their vocabulary back to them, remember that, and some of this is like the science of influence, the science of actually getting people to change, right? Like, how do we change our minds about something? Is we actually help people create their own reasons for doing something, create their own reasons for learning something new or considering a new idea or changing their worldview. And so rather than insisting on, this is my vocabulary for it, therefore you must also adopt that vocabulary, you've just created a hurdle that doesn't need to be there. But if you invite their voice and then also reflect their vocabulary back to them later during the session, the next day, things like that, they are going to trust you and they're going to lend authority to you when you ask them to do something else. So these are our 5 tips for how we can build authority and trust as an event to MC. 1, ditch the introduction, go really bare bones on that. Take a risk early by giving voice to your audience. Move from control to invitation. Avoid the temptation to +1 and reflect back to your audience their own vocabulary. This is a great way that you can elevate your event and build trust and authority with your audience as a conference MC.